Hi, I'm Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here today with my July reading wrap-up. This is going to be a bit quicker than most monthly wrap-ups for me because it is Big Book Summer, the challenge that I host every summer, and so I have been reading big books all summer long. So that means that in July, I only finished 2 books in print and 1 on audio. So toward the end of this video, I'll also give you a brief overview of what my husband finished in July because he's also reading for Big Book Summer. So first of all, the biggest of my big books for this year is Voyager by Diana Gabaldon. This is a fabulous series. It's the Outlander series. It begins with the book Outlander. And these books are huge. But here's the thing. And I often read them for Big Book Summer, and every time I get to the end of one, after reading it for a full month, I am sorry that it's over. And I'm missing the characters. In this case, it was 870 pages, and I never wanted it to end. In fact, my husband just bought me book 4 for my birthday. This was book 3, and I can't wait to jump into that one too. This one, no spoilers for the first several books for the first 2 books in the series, but the series is about a woman in 1945, just after World War II. She was a nurse in the war. Her husband was in the military, and they are reunited after the war and go on a vacation to Scotland. They're both English. While in Scotland, her husband's really into genealogical research, and so he's off doing his research. So she's touring around, seeing the sights, and she goes to one of those ancient rings of standing stones. And while she's there, something happens. She gets pulled back and finds that she has gone back 200 years in time. She's in the 1700s in Scotland. She doesn't know how to get back. So in that first book, she meets a Scot named Jamie. I forgot to mention the main character's name is Claire. So the whole series is about Claire and Jamie through the years, many, many, many years. This one, much of it takes place 20 years after book 2 ended. But in the beginning here, through flashbacks, we find out what's happened in the preceding 20 years. For one thing, Claire and Jamie have been separated. So this book is about what happens to each of them while they were separated, how they reunite, and Claire and Jamie are famous for reunions. And as you can tell by the title here, after Claire and Jamie are reunited, they go on a voyage, multiple voyages actually. They go from Scotland to France, and then they sail toward the Caribbean. And so that's what this book was about. It was even more so than the first 2 books. This might be my favorite so far. It was filled with adventure and action and really fascinating different settings. The history is fascinating. These books, there is time travel, but they are primarily historical fiction, and really fabulous historical fiction that puts you right into these times and places. And of course, there's the ongoing love story between Claire and Jamie. But this book was just filled with action, adventure, suspense, plus all those fabulous details. Really, really enjoyed Voyager by Diana Gabaldon and can't wait to read more of this hefty series. After finishing those 870 pages, and I read some of the excerpt at the end from the next book because I wasn't ready to give up yet, After all that, I needed something a little quicker and, well, I was going to say lighter, but this is not light. So I picked up Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is a YA dystopian novel. My family loves Shusterman's novels. He is an amazing writer. He writes both middle grade and young adult fiction. We got into his books when my older son was either in middle school or just into high school, with his Skinjacker trilogy, which begins with Everlost. Highly recommend that. That's a middle grade series that focuses on an imagined afterlife. Not really afterlife. It's more of a like in between limbo kind of world. And it's a group of children that are kind of stuck there. Fabulous, absolutely great. And then the whole family got into his Unwind series. I think that may even be what coined the term dystology, a series about a dystopian series, because he ended up with 5 books in that series. Unwind is just amazing, mind-blowing. So that's a long way of saying I couldn't wait to read Scythe. But somehow I did wait. For some reason that I don't understand, this came out several years ago. I heard everybody raving about it. I knew how much I liked Shusterman, and still, I didn't get to it. My husband gave this to me for Mother's Day. As you can see, it also won the Prince Honor. And so I was really excited to finally read this book by a favorite author. So Scythe is all about a future world far into the future where life is pretty much perfect and humans are now immortal because there is no more disease. Science and technology have advanced to the point where there is no suffering, there is no disease. There are nanites in people's bloodstream that immediately go to work if there is any pain, emotional or physical. If someone is injured, you can even kill yourself and you're brought back to life. And so in this world, this utopian world, there is one problem. And that is that with everyone being immortal, population would rise too high for the resources that are available. And there are no more governments. This is part of the ideal world. There are no governments because there is an advanced AI that manages the world and its resources. But the population would keep growing. So there are certain humans that are designated scythes, and their job is to glean, kill a certain number of people per year according to what will hold the population steady and ensure there are enough resources for everyone on Earth. So this is not a national thing, it's an international thing. There are sites all over the world. Well, this book focuses in on this system of sites, but in particular on 2 teenagers who have just been chosen as Scythe apprentices. And they do not want to be Scythes, but the Scythe that has chosen them, Scythe Faraday, each Scythe chooses a historical name. He is a very conscientious Scythe, and he takes his job very seriously. And he tells the 2 teens that he's chosen as his apprentices that the fact that they don't want to be Scythes is what will make them good Scythes. So he begins training them, not only in methods of killing, but also in history and art. And again, he's one of the good guys. If these designated killers can be good guys. Unfortunately, they're not all like Scythe Faraday, and some really get into their job and enjoy it and are going a little off the rails with it. So that's what this book is about. That's what this trilogy is about. This system of scythes and these two teenagers who are chosen to train as scythes. As with all of other Schusterman's novels, this was excellent, completely engrossing. In fact, the reason there's a bookmark still in it is because as soon as I finished it, my husband picked it up and started it. So that's Scythe by Neal Shusterman. Excellent book, and I can't wait to read the rest of the trilogy. The audiobook that I listened to, the big book audiobook I listened to in July, was Everything the Light Touches by Janice Perriott, and I enjoyed this one very much. I chose it because I could see in the reviews that it was being compared to Cloud Atlas, which I loved, by David Mitchell, and to Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr, which is in my stack for Big Book Summer, but I haven't gotten to it yet. I think the comparisons are because this follows a similar kind of structure, in that it is 4 different stories of different people taking place in different points in time and in different locations. So it begins with the modern day, with a young woman named Shy, who has lost her job. She lives in India. She's lost her job, gone home to visit her parents, and finds out that her elderly nanny, who raised her from infancy to teenager, much more than her mother did, that her nanny isn't well. And so Shy goes on a journey to visit her. Now, she lives in the remote mountains in northeastern India. It is quite a journey to get there. There are no roads to the village where she lives. And so going there, and Shy ends up staying there to help out and to care for her old nanny. Going there is like a step back in time, and it helps Shy to kind of reconnect to the natural world. So that's the first story. In the second story, a woman named Evelyn from England is traveling by ship to India. She has a degree in botany, I think from, I always get Cambridge and Oxford mixed up, from one of those schools. And this is the early 1900s. And so it was extremely rare for a woman to have a college degree and to study a science. But Evelyn is completely immersed in her field. Everyone around her is trying to fix her up and get her married. She has no interest in that. She's going to India in search of what may be a mythical plant that she's read about. And so she also journeys to this same part of India, this northeastern remote part. Eventually, at first, you know, they're trying to fix her up. So she has to kind of escape from that and get on with her real goal. The third character that's introduced, now we're back in the 1700s with an actual historical figure, Goethe. And we are following him on a trip he really made from his home in Germany to Italy. And he spent quite a bit of time in Italy and became so fascinated by the different flora there that he ended up writing a book. I don't remember the name of it. I'll put it down below. In real life, Goethe made this trip to Italy and wrote this little-known book. Among all of his other works, this one is not as well known. So this is the story of how and why he came to write this book about botany and the plant world. And while he's in Italy, he develops his own theory about the natural world. Linnaeus was extremely popular in the botanical world for his work on classifying plants, for identifying and classifying them, dividing them up into different parts, even dividing individual plants into different segments. So while traveling in Italy, Goethe comes to a different conclusion, that all plant life is connected, has similar parts, and so that's what he writes about. And finally, we go all the way back to 1732 to Linnaeus himself and a trip to Lapland in northern Finland, where he is doing what he does, identifying and categorizing plants. So we go through each of those 4 stories and then back up through the first 3. And in this way, these 4 different stories are all interwoven. They're also all connected by this theme of nature. It's a beautifully written book, very engrossing. The audiobook was well done with multiple narrators, and I very much enjoyed Everything the Light Touches by Janice Perriott. So now very quickly, I will just show you what my husband finished reading in July. Also big books. He finished The Quiet Boy by Ben H. Winters. Now, I selected this for him for Father's Day at Northshire Bookstore while I was there for Booktopia in May, because he and I both really like this trilogy by Winters, The Last Policeman. Now, this is dystopian. It's about a police officer, a detective, continuing to do his job and investigate suspicious deaths, even though the world is ending. I've just read the first one, plan to read the second one during the fall for the RIP challenge. But my husband said The Quiet Boy is completely different. So that's interesting when an author can write completely different novels that are both really great. So this one is more of a legal thriller. It takes place in 2 different timelines, 2008 and 2019. It's about a boy who is in a coma. He was injured in 2008, and so this has 2 legal cases in it. The one in 2008, when he was injured and went into the coma, and then one in 2019, when the same lawyer is hired to defend the boy's father for killing the expert witness in the first case. So it's 2 different legal thrillers wrapped together. My husband said there's a little touch of the paranormal here, possibly, but he really enjoyed it. Said it was quite different from the Last Policeman trilogy, but very good. Then my husband was looking for a nice compact paperback to take with him on his road trip back home to Oklahoma. He chose A Time for Mercy by John Grisham. This is another one that I got him for Father's Day. Small paperback, but still a big book. This is the 3rd book in Grisham's series about Jake Brigance. I say series, it's loosely a series. I don't think you really have to read them all to understand what's going on here. Jake Brigance is a lawyer in rural Mississippi. This is one of Grisham's favorite places to write about. The first book featuring Jake Brigance was A Time to Kill, which was Grisham's first novel. So it's interesting that all these years later, decades later, he's still going back to this character. The second book was Sycamore Row, which my husband and I both read for Big Book Summer last year. And so this is the 3rd book. He said it was very good, excellent, just as good as the others. And this is one that I want to read too. Are you seeing a theme here? So that's what my husband finished in July and what I finished. I would love to hear about your summer reading. Let me know in the comments down below. What was your favorite book read in July? Are you participating in Big Book Summer? Or what does summer reading mean to you?